Right, rebuild the alternator generator on 32E Harley Davidson. So we've got a new armature, shiny. We've got a new drive cog, make sure that fits. So that's all good. We've got new bearings, two different sizes, you can't get them wrong. Okay. We've got a new brush set. So all we've got to do basically is put it together and see what works and what doesn't.
Is there anything you need to be mindful of, or
spacings more than anything, making sure that it fits that way. So before I wire it all up, we'll just put it together, see what it rotates like, make sure it feels okay, and then we'll wire it all up.
okay?
That nut was damaged, so I've got a new nut for that. So it's just literally a matter of assembling it and deciding if it all works okay. Standard generator disassembled, and that's what we've got. Yeah. So we'll start with our tail bearing, which is that one there. We've got nothing loose in there, that all feels good. So 7 is the first thing to go in, which is our felt washer. It goes in there. A little bit of oil on it, soak in. Don't need a lot, just enough to give it a coating, yeah. One above the other. That's it. Push that in so it goes in its hole nicely. You can tell when it's gone in. You see the 2 holes, 1, 2.
Oh yeah.
And you've got the gap there. Once you know it snaps in once that gap's back there.
Okay.
And then our new bearing. So make sure that's home. And just get your centre punch. You only just want to nick it, I don't want to damage those wires. It can't physically come out when it's all together, but you just want to make sure it's got a little bit of bite on it, yeah? So that's that. So that's our end bearing. That goes on. Then your spring. Then your new end piece. And that holds all of that casing together when it's when you've got your roll pin down through, yeah? Goes through that hole there. So we know our armature goes on there. Put that on there so it stops the bearing coming out, yeah? Put your new nut on there so you don't want to damage the thread. So that's actually the material for making white metal bearings.
Okay.
It's Babbitt material. So just use it, it's nice and soft so you're going to damage anything, yeah? Down here, the note change. So we know that's down now. Okay, haven't damaged any of the threads, so that's all good. Right, so now I'm not worried about the wires at the moment. I just want to make sure everything's turning as it should do, yeah? We've got our end piece. Still got its gasket in there, so that's good. Right, we've got to put that on, okay? Just to hold it. So as I say, I'm not worried about the wires at all. So he goes that way. You've got a locating pin there, look. Yeah? And a hole, corresponding hole in that casing.
Yeah.
Okay? So what we'll do is just poke the wires through anywhere for the moment. So that goes roughly there. Actually, they can all go straight through for the moment, can't they? Being an idiot. Nothing unusual there, eh? Right, so that's that field coil. Or shunt coil, whichever one it is. That's that one. Right, then we line up our pin and our hole. Be roughly there. Right, those two are nice and free. make sure we're not binding on anything. That all looks alright. Okay, so bung our screws in.
Is the thread right at the end?
Right in the end of this aluminium bit.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get a screwdriver. So I'll probably have to take this apart again, but you might get away with the wiring. We'll have a look and see. Depends which side you put it of things to get the right lengths. Okay. So that is now not turning for some reason. Oh, that should be alright. That should be alright. That should be alright. So it's probably just where it's off centre on the bearing then. So let's pop our outer bearing in. I'm guessing that's those shim washers, so they'll pop on there. Well, that's in there, so that's that washer, that's in there. It's got its wire clip in there. Yep, there's the washer, so the new bearing. Sealed face inwards. Whenever you're pushing a bearing in, don't ever hit it on the centre bit, yeah?
Okay.
Always hit it on the outside. It sounds like he's home, doesn't it?
Is the centrepiece more pliable?
No, because you got a groove on the inside of that, the ball bearing's sitting, and a groove on the inside of that piece where the ball bearing's sitting. So if you're hitting that, you're putting stress on all the ball bearings.
Yeah.
Whereas if you hit the outside, you're not putting any stress on it at all. 2, 2, and 1. And he goes that way. 2, 2, and 1. He goes that way. So now we want to get a socket to fit that middle bit to push it onto the armature.
Yeah.
So we don't want to hit it like that on the outside of here because it'll damage the bearing again, yeah?
Okay.
Let's go find a socket for that. So now that's spinning nicely, so it's centred the bearing up. Because you've got your you've got a field coil and a shunt coil.
Okay.
They're both, and the armature is all magnets.
Yeah.
So it's holding it clonk clonk one way or the other till you get the bearing casing on properly. Right, well that all spins very nicely. Very nicely. Couple of screws to hold it all together.
If that wasn't spinning so freely, what would be the cause of it?
Those spacing washers that we put in,
Yeah.
are too tight probably. So, but you've got to nip these down equally because they're a tight fit around this aluminium casing.
Yeah.
See, the more you tighten them down equally, it smooths it out.
But if you were finding after doing it equally it was binding a bit, where would it be from those spaces?
Yeah. Just remove one or shave one down very slightly. Right, let's put a cog on the end and you can just feel it then. That's fine. Can't do any, as long as it's rotating freely. Well, yeah, it does look like it's pushed that bearing out, which it has, so I think we'll take that back off and take one out. Not happy with that bearing being pushed off of there, you know.
See that? Where are you?
Well, that we peened on, didn't we? So that bearing has moved itself out.
So that should be flush.
Yeah. So I think I'll take one of those spacer washers out. I know it's a ball ache, but so your outer bearing sits against that face there. Okay?
Okay.
And your inner bearing sits against that face there. Now when we're doing that lot up, it's pushing that outer bearing out.
Yeah.
So the overall gap there is too long, which is why you have these shim washers. Okay?
Yeah.
So take one of them out, and that should give us enough free play to not push the bearing out the end.
Okay.
Because the bad side of it is that is fixed to the casing of the bike, and if that's too far in that way, it's not going to engage properly with the gear on the idler gear in the cam chest.
Right.
So you've got to get it halfway right. So hopefully removing that will give us half a chance. Right. Okay, we've got no gap there, so that's all on. Hasn't pushed the bearing out, so just doing that, sorted it, yeah?
Cool.
Right, okay. We want that. That's got to be looking at that end. So 2 light switch, 2 relay. So now we know our wires that come out of either side where they're going to as such, yeah? Field wire to positive brush. Okay, regulating field coil identified by orange paint mark. They're not going to be there anymore, but we know we've got one coil there on that side and one coil there on that side, yeah? So let's go with our 2 wires that are coming out of there. That one there, which is the bottom one, yeah, coming out of that shunt coil, goes up to the light switch terminal by the looks of things. So that should go through there. It's the bottom one, around there and onto there. I'll just get the tester and make sure that that is that one, not that one, which I'm pretty sure it is. Right, okay, so we're pretty sure that that's that wire because it's got continuity. So that was the bottom one out of the shunt. So that's our bottom one out of the shunt. I don't think it actually matters which way you go out of the shunts because they're only like a magnetic coil as such. But we might as well do it as per the diagram. I'm going to make sure that's not hitting anything. All looks good. Right, so the top one out of that one comes round and goes to the negative brush. Like all of these wires, they're all going back where they want to go as such, yeah? So we know we got that, so let's put, because you have to put these in conjunction with your new brushes. Right, so they're angled obviously, yeah? If you look at that armature, when that goes in there, that's offset that way, so you know you can only put the brush in one way.
Oh, of course,
yeah. Okay, so that goes in there. Slide your spring down in, pushing your wire in down the inside of the spring, and that goes in that slot there. Okay, and then we've got to get that in there, and one of them in there. Right, well that's that one in, yeah? So that's that side done. Got our 2 wires, they're connected. So we've got the one comes out the top, which is that one, goes to your negative brush, which we've done, and that one goes round to your light switch, which was that pickup there, which we've done. So that's okay. That top wire there then, top wire goes to your positive brush on that side. So that's, like I say, all the wires are sort of slotting in where they want to go, if you know what I mean. So we'll put a positive brush in now. Goes that way. Feed your spring in. They hook into that slot there. See the little slot there? You've got to push that down in there. Hook that in there. Get your spring down the hole, said mother. Line that up with that. It's very fiddly. Put that in there with that. Drop everything. Right, so the only wire we got left, bottom of that one, comes round and goes to your third brush. Right, that all feels nice. Bearings in the right place. Turn it by hand. Jubbly. Right, now we've got to do the third brush. Okay? Which is adjustable. So that sits in there. Okay?
Yep.
But that's your one you can adjust for your amp settings. Yep. That one was pretty warm, wasn't it, compared to that? Right, so that goes that way. That's that in there. That'll live up in there. Make sure that's nice and springy. Third brush goes to that hand side of the negative brush. Just make sure that those wires are just tucked out of the way. So you can take those off then. When you're putting these together, yeah, see, you've got your one locator screw, which you can't get wrong. Okay, so when you're putting all your third brush and everything in, these two are the ones you use, because if you think about the nature of that cap, the screws are in the centre line.
Yeah.
So that's your centre line on those. And they're obviously not the centre line, so I always put it together with those three. Right, so that goes in there like that. He goes on top, like that. What I normally do is set that there. So the gap between that and that, because that's your movable third brush to set your amps, yeah?
Yeah.
I normally set that about 7/16 of an inch, but we'll put it back, see the marks that were already there. So that's roughly 7/16 of an inch, that's normally what I set them to.
Okay.
And that gives you a nominal amp reading normally that's okay. Right, so that goes on that way. So literally, if you want to adjust your amps outputting, you take your end cover off, yeah?
Yeah.
Loosen those three. So your third brush adjustment is that.
Yeah.
Yeah? So about there we want it, that's fine. A little bit of oil in your end bearing, don't need a lot. That'll do. Let's put our third brush wire connection on. Give it a spin up. All sounds alright. You always get a little bit of noise when you put new brushes in things, yeah? So the minute it fires out, because they're only graphite,
Yeah.
it'll just chew the graphite off and it'll all sort of smooth out, you know? So that's all good. It's all turning nicely. Now we've got to go find a roll pin for that. They had a solid pin originally. I prefer to use the roll pins because one, a roll pin will snap before it does any major damage to anything.
Yeah.
And two, they're easier just to punch in the hole. That's looking good. Right, so that's started. So, we want our cover plate, our spring, line that up with that. That goes on that way. Okay. Right, so that's nicely through, so we'll rest that on there if we can. Knock that back down a little bit. Put that in the end. Give him a good tonk. Should have just spread him open a little bit. Punch him back through, make sure it's gone. See your roll pins push through. So that's all working nicely. What you do is you put one punch in the bench like that, and you put it in the end of the roll pin. Then you get another punch on the top, but it needs two of you to do it, so I'll get Robin to do it when he comes in.
Okay.
Give it a whack, and it just spreads the ends of the roll pin so it can't come out.
Yeah.
I mean, 9 times out of 10 the tension will hold it all in there where it goes anyway, but... So that was a pain in the arse, but we've done it.
Phew.
Yeah. So I'll turn the heater back on.
Yes, please do.